French President Francois Hollande and German Chancellor Angela Merkel are heading to the capital Kiev to present the new peace initiative. U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry, who is also in Kiev, said the U.S. wanted a diplomatic solution, but would not close its eyes to Russian aggression. Fighting between Ukrainian forces and pro-Russian rebels has killed more than 5,000 people since last April. Ukraine and the West have accused Russia of arming rebels in eastern Ukraine and sending regular troops across the border. Russia denied direct involvement but says some Russian volunteers are fighting alongside the rebels. Speaking in a joint news conference with Ukrainian President Petro Poroshenko, Mr. Kerry said it was a critical moment for this region, for this country, for the prospects of peace. We want a diplomatic resolution, but we cannot close our eyes to tanks that are crossing the border from Russia and coming into Ukraine, he said. U.S. President Barack Obama is said to be considering sending defensive weapons to Ukraine. The U.S. is currently only providing non-lethal assistance. Russian Foreign Ministry spokesman Alexander Lukashenko said any decision by the U.S. to supply weapons to Ukraine would inflict colossal damage to Russian-American relations. Meanwhile, Mr. Hollande said that he and Mrs. Merkel would present the new peace proposal based on the territorial integrity of Ukraine, which could be acceptable to all. However, he warned that diplomacy cannot go on indefinitely. Ukraine is at war. Heavy weapons are being used and civilians are being killed daily, the French leader said. Mr. Hollande and Mrs. Merkel will meet Russian President Vladimir Putin in Moscow on Friday. A spokesman for the Kremlin said Mr. Putin would discuss the fastest possible end to the civil war in southeastern Ukraine. The talks in Kiev come as NATO unveils details of a plan to bolster its military presence in Eastern Europe in response to the Ukraine crisis. NATO chief Jens Stoltenberg says it will be the biggest reinforcement of its collective defense since the end of the Cold War. A new rapid reaction spearhead force of up to 5,000 troops is expected to be announced, with its lead units able to deploy at 2 days' notice. NATO is also establishing the network of small command centers in Estonia, Lithuania, Latvia, Poland, Romania, and Bulgaria. Mr. Stoltenberg said the bloc was responding to the aggressive actions we have seen from Russia, violating international law and annexing Crimea. New sanctions. Meanwhile, officials said on Thursday that the European Union is adding 19 people, including 5 Russians, to its sanctions list over the Ukraine crisis. 9 entities will also be targeted by the sanctions, which were reportedly agreed at an emergency meeting of EU foreign ministers last week. Fighting has intensified in eastern Ukraine in recent weeks amid the rebel offensive. On Thursday, both government and rebel officials said several civilians had been killed in clashes over the past 24 hours. Ukraine's military said 5 of its soldiers had died in the same period. The fiercest fighting has been near the town of Debaltseve, where rebels are trying to surround Ukrainian troops. The town is a crucial rail hub linking the rebel-held cities of Donetsk and Luhansk. Some 1.2 million Ukrainians have fled their homes since last April, when the rebels seized a big swathe of the Luhansk and Donetsk regions following Russia's annexation of Crimea.